welcome back to another video. Oh, give me a second. Louis, come on. Back up. There you go. There you go. Oh, there you go. You got it. Louis, no. Hey. No. Maybe I'll keep that part of him being a menace. Anyways, hi guys, welcome back to another video. I am super excited for this video because it is my April TBR. Okay, now for those of you who don't know, April is a very special month because we have Realmathon. And Realmathon is a month-long readathon that lasts the entire month of April. It is hosted by Cassidy. I will make sure to tag her down below. And basically, if you want to know what Realmathon is all about, you can go check out her video. I will try to link it in the description. That kind of just explains what Realmathon is, basically. So there are 4 realms, and each realm has a different genre attached to it. So I am a part of the realm called Enya, which is the fantasy realm. And this could be fantasy of any kind. So urban, epic, cozy, anything really. And so this is my TBR for this month. Now this TBR is so overly ambitious. I really highly doubt that I'm actually going to read all these books, but I wanted to give myself some options. There are 2 books here that are a priority read for me, so they are the ones I will be reading first. But I am super excited to walk you through all my choices, so let's get into it. Alright, I just need my handy dandy notebook. I have film on my phone, so I don't have access to the notes that I keep on my phone, which is why I have to write things down or write things down on my iPad. So as you can see, there's an entire list. There are 20 books on this TBR. All of them are fantasy. I really want to challenge myself to read a lot of fantasy this month because normally I love reading fantasy, but the past 5 or 6 years, I haven't read as much as I used to when I was a teenager. So I really want to fall back in love with reading fantasy and really just discover all these new worlds that I have sitting on my shelf and meet all these incredible characters and read these incredible authors. So that's why I am primarily going to be sticking with fantasy, and I really hope it goes well. Some of these books are very chunky, so we'll see how that goes. The chunkiness factor may be what causes me to read less than I am aiming for, so that is definitely something I will have to take into account. Now, my TBR is divided into books that give my realm points and books that take points away from other realms. So basically the 4 realms are in this big giant battle, and whichever realm has the most points at the end is the one that wins. So you can either read books that help your realm, or you can read books that take points away from other realms. I chose so many books because I've been in a massive reading slump lately and I really want to get out of it. So I think making myself read a lot of books is the only way to pull myself out at this point, which is why my TBR is so huge. But other booktubers do have lower TBRs, and that is because there are a list of 36 prompts, and you can count at least 5 prompts for one book if that book fits more than one prompt, if that makes sense. Yeah, I'm just giving you guys some background information because I didn't even know about Realmathon till last year, but now it's super big, and last I heard there were about 800 people signed up for this readathon, which is insane. It's so cool to me that that is happening. And again, all of the information about Realmathon is on CoverswithCassidy's channel. I will link the specific video that has all the links to all of the other information about this readathon too. So don't worry about that. All right, we're gonna get into this TBR now that I've rambled on for so long. So the first prompt is to read a book with a map in it. And for that, I have chosen Realm Breaker by Victoria Aveyard. This is my first Victoria Aveyard book. I haven't even read the Red Queen series, but depending on how I like this, I think I might have to do that. And just for bonus points, let me show you the map. Isn't it beautiful? Like, I want all maps to be end papers now and to be done in color because, excuse me, it's gorgeous. Like, that's how you do a map, Miss Aveyard. And it's also very, like, clear to see, and it looks so authentic and just so pretty. This is YA, so even though it is, like, 568 pages, it should read pretty quickly. I do tend to read through YA very quickly. So, this is the book that I chose for the prompt to read a book with a map in it. And this one is positive points. I forgot to mention that. So these first few books will all be books that are positive points for my realm of Enya. I will let you know when we get to the negative ones. So the next prompt was to read a book that plays with history, and for that I chose Layer of Dreams by Libba Bray. This is the second book in the Diviner series, and these books are all set in the 1920s or 1930s. So that is why I chose that. It is a historical fantasy. And I read the first book so long ago, and I have had this for a while, and I've never got around to reading it, which is why it's on this TBR, because I'm really hoping to finally read it, because I loved the first book. The first book for some people, it is really hard to get into it because it is slow and, like, not a ton of action happens, but I am super excited to read this. I'm also being picky about the books that I buy for this series because I want all of the covers that, like, glow like this. So I have the first one, and I have this one, but then the next cover I need is, like, that blue one for the next book, and sometimes these covers can be a bit hard to find, but I'm, like, super picky that I want them all to match. So yeah, I'm very excited for this book. And I hope to see more of, like, the antagonist that was in the first book. There's this really creepy nursery rhyme around the antagonist, and it, like, totally freaked me out. And I want more of that because, I mean, I'm sure we all know at this point that I love spooky things. So, who doesn't like a bit of spooky with their fantasy? Anyways, I read The Diviner so long ago that I'm gonna have a hard time telling you what it's about. But this one is about a mysterious sleeping sickness that is spreading across New York City. And basically the diviners, who are people with powers, are going to descend into a dream world to save the city. I think that sounds amazing. Sounds epic. I get now why it's called Layer of Dreams. So yes, and this counts for positive points as well. And if you do use Storygraph, you can go follow me on there. Someone did create a reading challenge for Realmathon. So if you just go to reading challenges and then search up Realmathon 2.0, it should come up. All the prompts are on there. And how many points each prompt is worth is also on there, because each prompt has different, like, point values, no matter if they're positive or negative. So yeah. This is a very intricate readathon, and, like, Cassidy did such an amazing job setting this all up, so kudos to her. All right, so the next challenge was to read a book with a cursive font. I don't own any books with cursive font. I don't think I've even seen one. So I altered this prompt a little bit to read a book with a unique font, and for that I chose A Reaper at the Gates, because this font is layered so that it looks like there's part of the stroke is in the shadow and part of it is in the light. And also this font is just very unique with, like, the little knife point ends of the G and stuff. And this is the third book in the An Ember in the Ashes saga quartet. There's only 4 books, so I'm gonna call it a quartet. I know that term isn't really used a whole lot, and so basically this is, like, the threat of war is looming, and Helene is trying to hunt down Leah and, I forget it, Elias. I was like, what is his name? See, I read these first 2 books, like, a long time ago again, so But I am super excited to get into this. Oh, this also had a map. I didn't know that. Oh well. And this is also YA, so again, it really shouldn't take me that long to read. But let's see how big it is. See, these, I think you can tell all these books are pretty big. Yeah, so it's 458 pages. That's a chunker. I'm gonna have so many books that are like 500 or close to 500. I think I have a few that are over 500. So yeah, I'm super excited to read this. I love like this green color and how all the books have like different colors on them. Like that just makes me so happy. But also like the white aesthetic with it. Oh, so pretty. Yeah, I'm super excited for this. Again, I've had it for a super long time and I just haven't read it. I don't know what's wrong with me. This is a recurring theme. Okay, back to the handy dandy notebook. The next book is to read a retelling, and for that I chose Uprooted by Naomi Novik. I have tried to read this book and I got to page 16 and I failed. So I believe though that this is a retelling of Rumpelstiltskin. That might be Spinning Silver. This is a retelling of something. Do I know what? No. But I know it's a retelling, okay? And if it's not, like, please don't come for me. This was the closest thing I had. And this book is about Agnieszka. I love her name. I think it's so beautiful. And how she gets taken by the wizard. And she's, like, not seen as beautiful, but she's really surprised when he comes to take her anyway. So I'm, like, really curious about what this could be about. Like, I really want to like Naomi Novik because I think, like, for some reason Naomi Novik is like one of the best author names I've heard, and so like I really want to like her, but I don't like know what's wrong with me that I can't read this book. Sorry if you can hear my dog walking in the background. He's fascinated with what's going on outside. Yeah, he's sitting and staring out the windows. So I really am going to try to finally get through this. And this is actually, nope, it is not any smaller than my other ones. It is about 456 pages. Wow, I really was like, you know what? Let me read all my biggest books. I don't think that'll be great for the amount that I want to read, but I'm sorry if you are having trouble seeing the cover. It's because my ring light is like, this is a very glossy cover, so. But yes, I am super excited to read this book. It is my first Naomi Novik, and depending on how this one goes, I might grab Spinning Silver, but I don't know. If I'm having this much trouble reading this one, maybe not. Okay, the next book is a book that is out of your comfort zone. And for this, I chose Dragonfly and Amber by Diana Gabaldon. I was gifted quite a few books in this series by my aunt. And so she gave me like the 1st, the 4th, the 5th, and the 6th, I believe. So I have to buy a few of them, and this is one that I did buy. And what makes me extremely nervous about reading this is these are Bible thin pages. Like, they are thin, but yeah, this book is also ridiculously long. It's 743 pages. I don't know how Diana Gabaldon has written like 8 books in this series that are all the same length. Like, all the Outlander books are massive. Oh, sorry, for anyone who doesn't know, this is the 2nd book in the Outlander series, and the Outlander series takes place in the Scottish Highlands in like the 1800s, I believe. And it's about a lady who can time travel, which makes it fantasy. So it's another historical fantasy, and it's also historical fantasy romance. But I am still counting it as fantasy. It's not like just romance because there are a lot of fantasy elements to it. But yes, I'm super excited. I don't normally do well with historical fantasy, but Outlander, like, I read that so fast and I loved it. So I'm really gonna try this and see how it goes. I haven't watched the show mainly because the show is actually a really good adaptation and that it's exactly like the books. And if I've already read the books, I don't need to watch something that's exactly like them. Just my opinion, of course. But yes, I'm super excited to read this and finally get to it because, again, I've had it for a while And the Outlander series is one that I really want to read because it is really good, and it is, like, I don't read historical fantasy about the Scottish Highlands. Like, who does? It's kind of a niche thing, so it's really exciting for me to read maybe some history that I am not normally exposed to as an American, speaking as an American. Like, we don't really study Scotland or Ireland besides, like, what the British did to them. So, yeah. I'm very excited for that one as well. And then we have multi-POVs, read a book with multi-POVs, and that is, for this challenge, I'm doing The Atlas 6 by Olivia Blake. So here's what I didn't know. This book has illustrations. Like, how cool is that? Like, I'm an adult, but I love reading books that are illustrated. It's just, who doesn't want, like, full page pretty pictures in their books? Like, I want that. Sign me up. I've heard a lot of mixed reviews about this book, but I'm gonna give it a chance because Mel Reads, who is a booktuber that I, like, really trust because we do end up having similar reading tastes, loves this book. So, based off of that, I'm going to give it a shot. I have heard a lot of mixed reviews, though, of people saying that, like, oh, it's not that great, but I'm gonna read it and see for myself what I think. And also, for anyone who's wondering, Olivia Blake, I believe, is a pen name for a woman who co-founded AO3, which, if you don't know what AO3 is, it's Archive of Our Own, and it is one of the world's, it is, like, the largest fan fiction website. I, like, had no idea. I was just like, what? What? Anyways, so I'm very excited to read this, like, based off of that information, and I love anything to do with, like, the stars and stuff, so that's also why I'm super excited. And yeah, I just can't wait to read this for myself and see what I think, because I actually think I'm gonna like this. Like, I have good hopes for this book. All right, the next prompt is to read a book with mental health rep. Oh wait, sorry, I skipped some. My handwriting is so tiny. The next book is to read a book that's YA or middle grade. For this, I chose Wicked Fox. Her tag on YouTube isn't Books with Chloe anymore. It's Chloe Bunny. Loves this book. And she compares it to, like, a K-drama, but in a book form. And I was like, okay, I like that. Let's do it. I still haven't read this. I've had it for, like, 2 years and I haven't read it. So this month, I will change that. And for those of you who don't know, this is a fantasy book based on Korean mythology of gumihos. And I'm just really excited because I've heard fantastic things about this book. And also, like, how pretty is it? Plus the fact that it's YA, like, I know I'll get through this pretty quickly, and I'm just, like, here for all the drama and all the vibes, and I'm so excited. I also think this has got a romance in it, which makes me super excited. I don't like reading books that don't have at least some romance in it because I think that brings an interesting dynamic to the book, so I'm very excited for that as well. And, like, I love this cover. It's so pretty. I wish I had the version that had, like, the pink sprayed edges and was a hardcover, because that version is, oh, so beautiful too. All right, now the next prompt is to read a book that's underrated. And for this one, I chose Queen of the Conquered by Kacen Callender. Yes, I said that right. But it's spelled differently than calendar. So I am super excited to read this book because I have heard, like, no one talk about it. I'm serious. I'm on Book Talk and I'm on BookTube, and I've heard no one mention this book. So I'm super excited to hopefully bring it to more people's attention. This is also an Own Voices book, and can we take a moment to appreciate how pretty this cover is? Like, the snake and the pink flowers and the white. Oh, it's so pretty. But this book is about Sigourney Rose, who was the only survivor when her family was massacred by the colonizers. Now the king of the islands has declared that he will choose his successor from among eligible noble families, and Sigourney is ready to exact her revenge. This says, a powerful story of colonialism, conquest, and revenge. Queen of the Conquered starts riveting epic fantasy duology set in a Caribbean-inspired world. I'm super excited to read this. I don't read many Caribbean-inspired fantasy. I think that is also a niche thing in the fantasy genre, so very excited for that. And this reminds me a lot of Babel, which I read recently. because it is very much like about colonialism and racism and how that really affects people of color. So I'm super excited to read this for that reason and gain more knowledge about that and how to fight back against a modern day colonialism. And like also this whole book, like the pink and the black, my favorite color combo is pink and black. So I'm just like living for this. And this is the spine. And I love how the spine is so different from the cover. Like that's just the ultimate like aesthetic for me. Anyways, I'm super excited to read this. I will definitely let y'all know how it goes in my wrap-up video, or I'm thinking of doing weekly vlogs for the month of April, just because I'm going to be trying to be reading so much that I might end up doing that instead of a wrap-up. But I'll see. I'll let y'all know. Because I have a couple other videos that are filmed too and just waiting to be edited. So like April's going to be a good content month for me. Like just okay, now we're at a book with mental health rep. I do not own any fantasy that has mental health rep, and if I do, I've already read it, and I don't want to reread it. So I altered it slightly to a book with disability rep, and that is A Curse So Dark and Lonely. This is a very popular YA. I have already started it. I'm like 88 pages into it, and it's super awesome because this has cerebral palsy rep, and literally, like, I've never read a book with cerebral palsy rep, much less a fantasy, and fantasies don't usually have disability rep at all. So I'm super excited for that reason to read this. I do have the second book as well. And I don't want to say anything about this book because it might spoil it, but this is a Beauty and the Beast retelling too. See, like, as I talk about these books, I'm like remembering all these things about them. But when I was trying to choose books for the prompt, I like couldn't remember what any of these books were about. So I think I have an issue with that. Anyways, I'm very excited to read this. This is by Brigid Kemmerer. I think it's Brigid Kemmerer. And yeah, I'm very excited to finally finish this book. This is a book that I would consider putting in a classroom because for any students with physical disabilities, like, that'd be a great thing for them to see themselves in, even if they don't have cerebral palsy. And yeah, super excited. Okay, now I believe that was the last book that counts for positive points toward my realm of Enya. So we're gonna get into the books that are negative points, which means they take points away from other realms. So let's see. We're going to start off with the first prompt, which is a new to me author, which is The Priory of the Orange Tree. Now, I am reading this book for a different vlog that I am trying to film, but I decided why not include it in this readathon? Like, why not? It's fantasy. It fits this prompt. I've never read Samantha Shannon, even though she has another series out. Like, I've never read it. I just noticed this sticker on the back of this book. Oh, I should probably take that off. Oh my god. Okay, I have started it. I'm on page 4. And it is massive. Yeah, over 800 pages. Wonderful. I'm very excited to finally get through this, and more of my thoughts will be in the other vlog that I am filming, but I guess this is about dragons, but not really, because people say the dragons aren't really in there. So yeah, anyways. I'm really hoping that I like her writing, because I've heard from other people that she is very, like, her other series is really good and her writing is really good in there. So next we're doing a title that has an emotion in it. And for that, I chose Master of Sorrows by Justin T. Call. This is another book I haven't heard many people talk about, so I'm very excited. And this is the one line that made me want to read this book. Every Dark Lord has an origin. I think it's about the villain. Oh my god, I'm so excited. I love reading stories about villains. I don't know why. Because, you know, they're not always as horrible as people think they are. Like, they just have to make tough choices, and sometimes they make the wrong ones. But, like, don't we all make wrong choices? Like, I'm sorry. I read too much dark romance. And this plays off of several tropes of, like, the orphan boy raised by a wise old man comes to a fuller knowledge of his magic and uses it to fight the great evil threatening his world. but what if that hero were destined to become the new Dark Lord? So the hero actually is the villain. So cool. I've never like heard of Justin T. Call before, but I'm very excited to read this. It is another chunker. What did I say? I have a problem with chunky fantasy. Like, if my fantasy isn't chunky, I'm upset. Yeah, so it's about 638 pages. I am super excited to read this though, and yes, hopefully I do end up liking it, because I think this book is a part of a series. It's like the first one in a series or something. So, oh, and also Call is a debut novelist, which is another prompt on there, but I didn't know that. So this one might count for more than one prompt, because I thought I didn't have any debut authors, but I guess I do. Yes, I'm super excited to read this. All right, the next prompt. I know, there's a lot. The next prompt is a book with a source of light on the cover or in the title. This one is kind of funny because we're playing with the word shadow, which is the absence of light. But on the book, there's like this giant sun. I think that's a sun. It's a source of light, therefore it counts. Anyways, this is The Shadow of What Was Lost by James Islington. I'm also reading this book for another vlog, so more of my thoughts will be in there. I haven't read a majority of this book though, so I'm only on page 185. So I will be finishing this pretty quickly. This and Priory of the Orange Tree are my two priorities for this month, because my other vlog that I'm trying to film has taken like over a month, so I need to get these read. And yeah, I'm super excited to read this one as well. It is getting more interesting now that I'm like getting into it, but I don't know where it's gonna go, so we'll see. And I'm debating on if I want to read the rest of the trilogy. I might have to, just because I'm very weird about like, if I start a series, I have to finish it, which I'm actually very bad at, so that's kind of a contradiction, but you get what I mean. I know, baby. I'm almost done. Sorry, my dog's getting frustrated with me. And I have to go to work soon, which is like why I'm wearing like my work clothes, because I work at a golf course, so it's very exciting. I get free golf, which is best. All right, next we're gonna read, the next prompt is to read a book with a dark cover. No problem. I have tons of those. That's like all fantasy covers. I'm gonna read Guild by Raven Kennedy. I know this is technically fantasy romance, but also I've heard this book doesn't have a ton of romance in it, so I'm gonna read it and count it as fantasy. I'm only on chapter 3. But it's also shorter, which is a nice break from all my really long books. And I'm super excited to read this one. I think this one is also from a smaller publisher, which I love reading books from smaller publishers because they have these like really amazing details in them, like how each chapter has that illustration. And for those of you who don't know, this is a retelling of the myth of King Midas. Oh my god, look, another retelling. It's a compelling adult fantasy series that is as addictive as it is unexpected. I like that. I like addictive books. I like books that feel like junk food, where you just can't stop. You gotta keep going. And I'm really excited to read this one because I want to read the rest of the series. And the rest of the series, like, the covers look amazing. So I'm super excited to read this, and I hope it goes well, and I hope I like it. And I hope that even if the romance is a slow burn, that it is still there in the further books. So we'll see. Anyways, I am super excited. Okay. The next prompt was to read a book that was a TBR bet. For that, I chose Legendborn, for the reason that the second book is now out, and I need to read this so I can read the second one. I had not read this book. I've had it for like a year and a half, and I haven't read it. I don't know what's wrong with me. And also, this does have sources of light on the cover, so look at all these prompts we're getting. And for those of you who don't know, Legendborn is by Tracy Deonn, and I think this was her debut novel as well. Wow, look at me go. And it's about Bree Matthews, who, when her mother dies in an accident, and she like attempts to get away from that, and she goes to a college, and there's like magic involving the Knights of the Round Table. Sorry, that was a really bad explanation. Again, I don't like to know anything about my books before I read them. All that to say, this is like King Arthurian lore. I love King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. Like, this is my favorite European myth. Yeah, I think that's the right word to describe it. Not entirely sure. Anyways, I am so excited to read this, especially because since the legend of King Arthur is very like white centric, I'm so excited to have like diversity introduced to that and just make that world broader and like more available to different types of people. I'm very excited to read this and read all about Bree, and I do think this has a bit of romance in it, but not entirely, so we'll see. And I'm super excited. Again, this is another big book, but it is YA, so actually, I don't know if I would classify this as YA. I'd say it's upper YA leaning into new adult. New adult is generally 18 to 22, in my opinion, because that's like college ages, and Bree's 16. So we're like upper levels of YA, and I'm super excited to read this. I think it'll go well. I have really high hopes for this book because Olivia Reads a Latte loves this book. So I'm really hoping that I love it just as much as she does. All right, the next prompt is is to read a hybrid genre. So I chose fantasy romance just because that was the easiest one. I don't own fantasy horror. Sad. It's a sad day. And this is called Stars of Fortune, which is book 1 of the Guardians trilogy by Nora Roberts. I received this as a gift from my aunt, and I haven't read it yet, so I really need to read this. She also got me the entire series, and I'm gonna binge read the entire series because they all fit a prompt. So I thought that was great. I don't know anything about this. Okay, moving on to the next book. I gotta get through these. Then we have Title is a Movement, which is Bay of Sighs by Nora Roberts, which is book 2 of the Guardian trilogy. And sighing is a movement. It counts. I'm making it count. And this is the second book to this, so I really don't know anything about this. And lastly, in that trilogy, we have Island of Glass, which is book 3, and it's also by Nora Roberts. Surprise, surprise. And this fits the prompt of Illustrated Spine. It's kind of hard to see, but that's like sea glass. So I'm very excited. Yes, this is the third book again, and these are all shorter as well, so it'll be like a nice little break from all my really huge books that I'm reading. And yes, I am gonna binge read them, so when I get to those prompts, it'll be Okay, we're down to the last 3. Then I have to read a fantasy, because I have to read a book that is my genre. I chose The Prison Healer by Lynette Noni. The best way I've heard this book described is using a Throne of Glass reference of if Celaena Sardothien stayed in the prison. I love that. I love that. I think there's a romance in here too. This is also the first book, and this is an ARC copy that was gifted to me from one of my college professors like a while ago. So I finally want to read this and see what the hype is all about, because I've heard that it's actually a really good book. So very excited for that. Okay, second to last book is read a book where the title is a place but not a pronoun. For that, I chose The City We Became, because if this was a pronoun, it would be like a specific city name, but it's not. My English major here coming in clutch. And this is by N.K. Jemisin, who also wrote, what else did she wrote? I read it. I totally read it, but I don't know what she wrote. It is The Broken Earth trilogy, which is the 5th season, The Obelisk Gate and The Stone Sky. I've read the 5th season and I loved it, so I really want to read this and fall in love with it as well. And the coolest thing about this copy is it glows in the dark. I'm not even kidding. It's so cool. I love that about this book. And I don't know anything about it. So yeah, I'm very excited. Apparently it's about a city who's got 6 children, and they will all be called to arms in the greatest battle the city has ever fought. And the second book to this did recently come out, so I'm very excited that if I like this, I will go pick up the second one. And can we just like appreciate all the neon like accents? Like, I love that. It's so cool. All right, the last book is for the prompt to read an Own Voices novel. Look, we're done. This is the last book. That was so long. This is the longest video I've ever filmed. Anyways, my Own Voices novel that I chose was Jade City by Fonda Lee, because this is Asian-inspired fantasy, and Fonda Lee is Asian. And all I know is Mel Reeds loves this book, and I hope I do too. And for a little information about it is that it's about the Greenbone warriors who have used magical jade to enhance their abilities and defend the island of Kekon from foreign invasion. But now the war is over and a new generation vies for control of Kekon's bustling capital city, and 4 siblings of the powerful Cowell family must prepare for battle, and the fragile peace between the clans is about to break. I think that sounds amazing. I think I've heard this, like, people say that, like, if you think of these families as, like, gangs, and I was like, oh, okay, I get it. Like, now I kind of understand. I'm very excited to read this. I do have the second book, but once again, we've got a massively chunky fantasy. It is 495 pages. I hope it has short chapters, because that's the only way I get through my chunky fantasies is if they have short chapters. All right, and that's it for this video. Oh my gosh, that took a while to film. I am hopefully going to cut it down a little bit. I am sorry if it is so long, and I am also going to try to get this video out as soon as I can because Realmathon starts April 1st. Once again, this readathon is hosted by Cassidy from CoverswithCassidy. I will put a link to her video that describes the whole readathon down in my description in case you don't know what it is. And I am super excited to do this readathon. I hope you guys decide to join me in this challenge and sign up for Team Enya because we're like the best, you know? We do have 2 hosts of Team Enya, and I believe that is Kaylee from Kaylee Reads and Becca, I believe. I will make sure to tag them down below as well, so you can go check out their channels and their Realmathon content. And yes, I hope to read all 20 of these books in April, so wish me luck. Bye!